Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about consumption, health, and our habits.
And we have a Bible verse today that we want to share with you guys that kind of lines up with the message that we are going to talk about today. And the Bible verse is Romans 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So let me just say that one more time. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. And that kind of leads us into developing different types of habits. I mean, the different influences that are out in this world that influence our behaviors, influence our thoughts, and influence our feelings.
Yeah, so often we have clients come to us wondering why they fall off the bandwagon or fall off the wagon with their habits, or they can't stick to it, or why good habits are so hard to form and bad ones are so easy sometimes.
Right.
And, part of when we think about consumption and identity, health and habits, health is not just what we're eating. I think so often we think of health as like fitness and eating.
But if you were to mention that to me, like, Taylor, how's your health? I'd think, well, I did start that diet at the beginning of the month, eating only raw fruits, raw vegetables, and nuts. But now I'm just, I fell off that. I'm back to Chick-fil-A. That's what I think about with health.
Yeah, right. But health, it's not that. It's about what we're watching, what we're thinking, what we're saying, right? Health is the whole package. And so often we don't focus on those other parts of our health. And that's part of why we don't form healthy habits, or we stay stuck in bad habits.
Absolutely. So would you say that then obviously mental health falls under some of those habits that can take us to the negative side?
Of course, everything, right? Everything we think, we hear, we see, we say, plays into our physical health, and like you said, plays into our mental health as well.
Right. So when I think about some of the influences in the world, some of the main influences that I can see is like the news. When you turn on the news, you see a lot of bad things happening in the world, a lot of people arguing with each other, a lot of people not disagreeing on the same points, and then like fighting with one another, right? And then we have some TV shows that give our youth and even the adults a not so good message. It can cause us to have deceitful relationships or just bad relationships in general.
Yeah, and we have to think about what we're thinking to ourselves too, right? So if you're watching the news, or let's say you're scrolling on social media, if your first thought, just think of social media. So let's say you see someone with like a bigger home than yours, or something of that nature. And if your first thought is, wow, I wish I had that. Or if your first thought is, wow, good for them, right? Even those two different frames of mind and thinking will subsequently send you into having different actions and different reactions that can set the course for the rest of your day.
I'm so glad that you said that. We actually had this conversation over the weekend when we were working on our dissertations. One of my friends lives in this beautiful mansion. And I said to Nikki, wow, like I really wish I had her life. Like she has a beautiful house. Things seem like they're going really well for her. Like it just seems like they're on the up and up. Nikki paused me because she saw me going down the negative influence, right, of comparing myself to other people on social media. And she's like, yeah, but how do you know what happens behind closed doors? How do you know if she's actually happy? Would you trade your life for her life without knowing the details? So I think that was good that you stopped me in that moment, because I was starting to be influenced in a negative way by the comparison.
Yeah, and even if we think about what we're saying too, right? So we talked about what we watched and how we think. So even to think about what we say to one another, like the old saying, misery loves company, right? But what you say influences your health, and it influences your habits, right? And so even if you're, if let's say you come over and we spend the day complaining versus the day encouraging and building each other up, that leads to subsequent habits, which leads to either better or poor health.
Right.
And so even thinking about what you say to family and friends is part of health and consumption that we really need to be mindful of, because this is one of the core functions of us getting into good or bad habits in life.
So do you feel like, I'm gonna put Nikki on the spot for a second. Do you feel like the news, the media, and social media influences people to go to work and like gossip and start, just being negative and like infesting the environment?
Yeah, I think it does, but I'm not gonna personally. I don't point the blame on the news, because it's how we interpret it, and then it's our job to interpret it and then say it back in a healthier way. So I feel like it's our job to do that with anything, right? With news or with friendships, like it's our job to reframe situations. And so often though we don't, because we take the path of least resistance.
You took the thought right out of my head. I was like, it sounds like you're talking about reframing. And that's just, for those of you who have been following us, reframing is kind of when you take a negative event or maybe a negative thought or emotion and you try to find the noble intent behind it, reframe it to something better. So you're right. You can consume all the negative things on TV and media, social media, whatever, but it's about how you reframe it, how you apply it to your life. And I think that's a good start for developing positive habits in your life.
Yeah, and so when talking about habits, right? So if we know consumption and health is these things we've been talking about, right? It's not just one thing, it's a holistic package. Why then is it so hard for us to get good habits and stick with them? And what we know is behavior that is incongruent with the self will not last. And what I mean by that is, so again, these things that we consume influence our behavior. It often influences our thinking. And so we act and we try to find habits that are not aligned with us or our purpose based off of the things we're consuming. Instead of really looking inward, we're doing it based on external factors.
Right.
And that's so often why we don't stick to good habits.
Absolutely. So I would like to apply what you just said to my life.
Okay.
So you said behavior that is incongruent with the self will never last. Whew, I think about me wanting to start this diet, right? I joined this challenge at the beginning of the month and I did do well, right? I did do well for the first 2.5 weeks. Was even doing the workout challenges, but then like I was supposed to go through until October 30th. And I think I fell off, last week, this week. So clearly that the behavior that I was engaging in, it didn't fit what I wanted. And do you think that's why I kind of like stopped doing it? Like, what do I need to do to kind of make that a habit?
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Habit.
What about that didn't align?
What about the challenge didn't align with me?
Yeah.
The food.
In what way?
Well, you guys, I absolutely love pizza. I love wings. I love all the unhealthy, unsaturated fats. And this diet really wanted you to focus on whole foods, such as raw fruits, again, raw vegetables, nuts, cold pressed juices, things like that.
I'm going to challenge you on that.
I'm ready.
Okay, so this is not planned. I want to challenge you on that.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So I think about you, because this is not the first diet you've tried in our time as being friends. But when I never hear you talk down about yourself though. Like you always say you want to lose weight, but then you're always like, I feel good, I'm healthy, like my husband loves me, like I don't really care what people think. And I think that's why your diets don't last, because you're not dieting because you want, because you want to say you lose weight, but then you don't really care deep down. And so I think you want to be healthy overall, and but your diets are sticking to like mainly focus on losing weight and not overall health. And I'm wondering if that's why it doesn't stick.
That could be it. That could be it, because as you mentioned earlier, health is not just about what you are eating, but like me being able to do some research and invest in a lifestyle change, if you will. So you're right. How do I become fully healthy? What does that picture look like? It's not about just the weight loss. It's about improving everything. Mental health, physical health, emotional health. It's a whole complete package. Okay.
I really have to wonder if that's why. Because when you were working out and you weren't focusing on losing weight and you're focusing on being healthy, you went to the gym every day for months and months and months, and it wasn't hard.
Right. Wow. Guys, she just life coached me in the moment, totally off script. But yeah, I love when moments like that happen, because, you know, we just want to show that we're human as well. And we kind of struggle with some of our own habits, and we struggle with some of the influences from the outside world and coming into our lives.
Yeah, nothing like being caught out on camera, huh?
Nothing like being caught out on camera, absolutely.
So okay, so that does lead into the point we're going to make eventually, but let's do it now. So yeah, what we consume. So we know like we don't form habits unless they're aligned with ourselves, and then everything we do, everything we're consuming is aligned with that too, right? So that's aligned with us, and then the things around us,
right?
And like we had said with you, like you don't really care about losing weight. You care about being healthy.
Yes.
I've never heard you say like, oh, I'm too fat, but you do say like, I want to lose weight. But I'm like, but why though? Because normally you're comfortable. So I don't think it's completely aligned. I think that's probably the consumption of media and like
Absolutely. Trying to conform
Yeah.
to society's view of what women should look like.
So if you are having struggles in setting goals and setting good habits, I think the first thing you need to do is really find the function of your behavior. We talked about that in our last show, but knowing your identity, knowing who you want to become, knowing the functions of those behaviors, setting a goal. And we talked some in our last episode. If you have any more questions, check that out about like processes and systems to do that. But then also making sure everything you're consuming is aligned then with who you want to be. And that means what you're thinking, saying, watching, where you're finding your inspiration from.
I 100% agree with that. So if you are trying to be somebody who is healthy, successful, that 5 a.m. club, want to get up and get your day started and be productive. If you are consuming hours of Netflix on the couch and you're scrolling through your phone, that doesn't really align up with your identity and who you want to be and who you see yourself as. And I think that's going to throw you off track and create some more bad habits for you.
Absolutely. And two, when we had talked about like processes and systems too, really looking at the day to day. So again, when we set goals, we set a goal and it's not necessarily aligned with ourselves. And then we make action steps. So, okay, my goal is I want to lose weight. My action steps are going on a diet. All right. So we did address the function, the identity,
right?
And then we addressed action steps, which yes are needed, but that's not the whole system. We need to address then the small processes and systems, meaning the little everyday habits. For example, let's say you're on a diet and you want that piece of pizza. It's okay.
I want that piece of pizza.
Right? It's okay. Because if you're making a whole lifestyle change, one piece of pizza, even one whole box of pizza will not ruin you. It's being in good habits to then the next meal eating those grapes and those nuts or whatever it may be.
It's kind of like that saying, that one cheeseburger did not make you fat.
Exactly.
And one salad is not going to make you skinny.
There you go. When we're looking at whole lifestyle changes, we have to look at really the big picture. Because I think so often we get in the mindset, and I know we're talking about dieting, because that's what women do, right? There's so many examples of this, but I made a mistake, so screw the rest of the day or the rest of the week, or I'll start next month. It's one bad meal, like you said, one cheeseburger doesn't make you fat and one salad doesn't make you healthy, right? And so in looking at our processes, we have to make sure that everything we do throughout the day is setting us up for good habits.
I agree. I think it's also important to kind of create an action plan, or just create different steps that are going to help keep you on track with your new habits that you're developing. So such as when we talk about the processes, again, strategies and systems that we put in place to be successful. So if I want to stay on track, we're going on with this dieting example. If I want to stay on track with that, maybe I need to set time or meal prep. Maybe I need to meal prep for healthiness. Maybe I need to stay off of social media and stop consuming those negative things that you see. Maybe I need to turn off the TV, period. Right? And then start creating that whole healthy lifestyle for me, step by step by step, until it becomes me.
Yeah. And so we know what we have to do, but there's still challenges and obstacles,
always.
Right? So if part of consumption is the things we see, then make your environment so that you can see things easier that align with your good habits. For example, and this is something that I do all the time, I always have fresh fruits and vegetables in my house. I put them in the crisper drawer because I think they last longer that way, which they do. But then I forget they're there, and then I go grocery shopping, and then I put more food in the fridge, and I end up throwing a ton of food away, which I hate because I forgot the stuff was in there. And so part of changing my environment to consume things, this consumption is seeing, would be maybe setting my apples out in a bowl on the table so that I constantly see it, and then keeping the chips or the things I'm trying to stay away from locked up in the pantry. Right?
Yes.
And so if turning off the TV is something you're trying to do, but let's say you're struggling because we all have like the binge-worthy shows we want to watch.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's setting that book out on the table, or setting a reminder out so that you see it, so that your eyes are diverted to that. So part of processes and symptoms is setting up your environment in a way that makes the path of least resistance the good habit and not the bad habit.
It's kind of like removing the negative triggers and putting positive things in your viewpoint.
Absolutely.
Kind of like the out of sight, out of mind. So of course, if you're trying to make that change from negative influences or negative habits into positive habits, you got to give yourself a break. You got to give yourself some time. It's going to be a journey, but the more you become disciplined and consistent with setting yourself up for failure and setting yourself up for success, woo, Freudian slip, and putting things out that are going to allow you to be successful is going to become a part of your lifestyle and who you are.
Yeah, and then like when you had said that, setting yourself up for success, so we will relapse, and like I said, it's okay. But making it harder to relapse and easier to have that good habit. So again, set the fruit, let's say, out on the table, and don't keep any snack food in your pantry if you can. That way, if you do want to have a slip up, you have to go to the store and buy the pizza or buy the Oreos or whatever it is, instead of just having it in your pantry or your freezer. Right, making it one step harder to obtain the thing you don't want. Yeah, so that way, if you choose to relapse, it really is a choice. And that's okay.
You have to go out of your way to do it, right?
And it will happen, but you have to go out of your way. And the thing that is easiest and the laziest for you to do, so reaching for that apple so I don't have to go anywhere or put pants on, is automatically the healthier choice.
I like that. I like that. So I remember I shared a goal with you. Like I said, I wanted to start reading more and starting to put my phone away. I'm thinking about like my little ottoman. I want to hide the remotes and just put books there.
Yeah. Or keep your phone charger on the other side of the kitchen. So if you want to like scroll through social media, you actually have to get up and walk to it.
Yes. So absolutely, having a system or a process is going to skyrocket your chances of success and skyrocket, your ability to develop some healthy habits in your life.
Yeah. For example, we had a client who was struggling with her work-home balance. And so, she really wanted to spend time with her kids when she got home in the evenings, which obviously most parents do, right? But she was an executive for a company. And so she found herself like over the dinner table while they were chatting about their day, like she would be checking her emails and responding with her phone. And she felt really guilty about this, but she just couldn't stop because it was right there.
Right.
So part of what we coached her to do, just in those little healthy habits, processes, and systems, was when she got home from work, she had like a little bowl on her end table that she threw her keys in, and we told her to throw her phone in there with it. It just automatically cleaned up the purse, hung it up, so that when she sat and had dinner with her kids, if she wanted to check her emails for work, she had to get up and go get it. And then she stopped doing it, unless there was something she was really like needing to respond to that she knew was coming. So that one small habit of putting that phone in that bowl and then going to the dinner table, that kind of really helped her have that extra bonding time.
I really feel like, speaking of negative influences, our phones really have taken over a lot of our lives. We're so connected to it, our friends, family, work, that even when you try to turn off work, you still get that buzz and you kind of like look like, oh, I need to answer that right now. But for our client, I think she really truly realized that, enough is enough. Enough is enough, and she needed help because she was addicted to that. And her family was starting to suffer. So it is about creating those obstacles that are going to make you think twice about having to get up. Like, think about how you would feel sitting at the dinner table with your family, with your kids, having a good old time, and then you hear your phone buzz and you're kind of like, I'll be right back. You're going to feel like you're, lessening the time with your family, and you're going to really disappoint them.
Yeah.
So we helped her set up those different steps to keep her away from her phone when she came home.
Right. And we're not judging that by any means. We helped her at that because that was her goal and what she wanted for herself and her family. So if you're sitting there and you're like, crap, I checked my phone on the table, no judgments here, because each person has a different goal and a different outcome. But yeah, it really is knowing who you want to be. And then again, I think the key is when you do relapse, make it harder to relapse and set the good habits right so you can see them, like visualizing it first. And then we can focus on what we're thinking and what we're saying a little bit easier too.
Absolutely. Guys, identity is the biggest thing. You have to know who you are and what you want to be able to set those positive habits in your life and to kind of get rid of those negative influences as well. If you don't know who you are, any goal that you set up, like we said earlier, that is not congruent to who you are is going to fall through. And then I don't want you to feel like you're a failure, you can't achieve certain things. You have to first sit down and figure out who you are, who do you want to be, and what type of person do you want to be when failure does happen. I think that's one of the biggest things too. As you mentioned earlier, sometimes if you are on, for example, if you're on a healthy diet and then you end up eating a piece of pizza, you say, screw it, the rest of the day I'm just going to go downhill. You don't want to be that type of person. You want to be forgiving, allow yourself to get back on track, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and go back towards your goals.
Yeah. So if you're having trouble staying on healthy habits, or you keep finding yourself in bad habits, we hope you use some of these tips to do some little tweaks in your life this week. And it doesn't have to be Monday or November 1st, or it can start tonight.
Absolutely, guys. So thank you so much for watching us today. Remember, next Wednesday, our brand new time, 2 p.m. We will see you right here on She Is Still Dope Society.tv. Please follow us on Instagram as well at BKLLC19 and on Facebook, Bryant and Katsaounis Life Coaching.
And you can check us out and subscribe to our newsletters and go to our website at www.visiondrivencoaching.com.
All right, guys, have a great week.
See ya.